Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. In the description of this video, you can find my compiled link. Through there, you can find ways to support the channel, my other social media, and more. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching. How's it going, everybody? CJ here, back with another video. We're doing a first thoughts today. This first thought is on Ashnod, the Uncaring. This is a really interesting commander. It's all about running artifacts or creatures that have activated abilities where you sacrifice something as a cost, because you get to copy it. You get to copy the activated ability. That seems really cool. Specifically off artifacts and creatures, so you're going to want to lean heavier towards one or the other, in my opinion. You could run a mixture, but I think the deck will be stronger if you lean heavy in artifacts or lean heavy in creatures. The categories I'll be talking about today are creatures that sacrifice themselves as a part of their activated ability, artifacts that sacrifice themselves as a part of their activated ability, cards that work well in a creature-based sacrifice deck, cards that work well in an artifact-based sacrifice deck, a little tribal plan that might work very well with this commander that seems fun, and then a bunch of one-off cards. So we're just going to hop right into this with creatures that have an activated ability that sacrifice themselves. The first one I want to say is Dauthi Voidwalker. This card is very powerful, very fun for this deck. You have Apprentice Necromancer and Doom Necromancer. Both those are good for reanimation. Fulminator Mage can blow up lands. Garza's Assassin is a very cool removal card. And it has Recover, which is a very neat mechanic, and it could come in clutch if you need it. Goblin Grenadiers is a very interesting card, especially if you can use Politics, so that way you can get an unblocked attack in, so you can sacrifice it to blow things up. Magus of the Mind and Magus of the Jar could put in a lot of work. You have Moriok Replica, Nurok Replica, Orcish Settlers for more land destruction, Scribe of the Mindful for recursion, and Thalicos Deceiver, just steal creatures. Seems great. Now we're going to talk about a handful of artifacts that have abilities where you sacrifice them to do something because you get to copy the ability. And those include Aether Spellbomb, Nihil Spellbomb, Pyrite Spellbomb, Conjurer's Bauble, Courier's Capsule, Executioner's Capsule, very powerful removal spell there, Expedition Map. You're in black, so sacrificing Expedition Map with Ashnod in play means you can go and get both Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, and Cabal Coffers. Experimental Synthesizer. Mindslaver seems hilarious in this deck. Mnemonic Sphere. Moonsilver Key. Rod of Absorption. And Dragonspark Reactor. Dragonspark Reactor is especially good if you are in a heavy artifact-themed deck. There's also a handful of ramp cards that have sacrifice abilities on them that seem like no-brainers for this deck, including Birdish Tart, Commander Sphere, Mind Stone, Navigation Orb, and Wayfarer's Bauble. If you want to go with a creature-based sacrifice deck, some very good includes include cards like Ayara, Bantu, Dark Dweller Oracle can give you card advantage, Erebos, Ghoulcaller Giza, Goblin Bombardment is a great sack outlet, Hell's Caretaker, Hidetsugu, Krav, Hostile, Kells, Lizolda, Priest of Forgotten Gods, Razaketh, being able to tutor is insane, Shadowheart, Sloppity Bilepiper, Whisper, and Yawgmoth. All of those are very powerful sacrifice outlets that let you just get net a ton of value, especially when you're copying the abilities. If you are going to go with this style deck, you're going to want creatures that you can sacrifice over and over and over again. There's two ways to go about that, being recursive creatures or token generators. If you want to go recursive creatures, you have cards like Reassembling Skeleton, Bloodghast, Nether Trader, and Dog Detective. But if you want to go tokens, you have cards like Ophiomancer, Jadar, Lagamos, and Endrick Sar. And if you're doing all of this, you might as well run some aristocrat style cards that work really well when you're sacrificing all these creatures. Some of those cards include Blood Artist, Pitiless Plunderer, Mayhem Devil, Dictate of Erebos, Liliana Dreadhorde General, Pawn of Ulamog, and Sir Conrad. Now we're going to talk about cards if you're going in an artifact strategy, where you're going to be sacrificing a bunch of different artifacts and stuff like that. Some cards that work really well as sacrifice artifacts with powerful effects include Arkham Dagson, Goblin Engineer, Goblin Welder, and Scrap Welder, All of those seem great for pulling stuff out of your graveyard. Kuldotha Forgemaster, Sai, Scrapyard Recombiner is a pretty interesting card. Slowbad is good protection. Breya's Apprentice provides a bunch of utility. Time Sieve for extra turns. Bjorna, Nightfall Alchemist, can goad creatures so that way you can kind of protect yourself. And if you're going to run all these artifacts, you might as well run cards that are very synergistic when you're running an artifact deck, including Joyra for card draw. Daretti, very similar to Goblin Welder, except for the fact that it is a Planeswalker, so you unfortunately won't be able to copy the ability, but it gives you extra activations. Urza, of course. Emery, to be able to play stuff from your graveyard. Ethereum Sculptor for cost reduction. Scrap Trawler seems like a perfect type of card for this deck. Canoptic Spider. Shimmermere for flash. Hellkite Tyrant is a very cool alternate win con. Vidalcan Archmage. Onicol Anvil, and Efficient Construction. Another way you can take this is an artifact token route. Blood tokens and clue tokens seem like a really cool playstyle for this commander because when you sacrifice a blood token or a clue token to draw cards, you can copy the ability. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with treasure tokens because of the fact that it's a mana ability, and there's no other really artifact tokens that have an activated ability that involves sacrificing themselves. I think that a blood token deck or an investigate deck could be pretty interesting. This could be a good commander for one of those playstyles. If you want to go with blood tokens, some of the cards you can include are Anya, Arterial Alchemy, Blood Fountain, Blood Tithe Harvester, which also has a sacrifice ability on itself, which is really nice, Falconwrath Forebear, Glasscast Heart. A lot of blood cards happen to be vampires or vampire related, so this is going to be a very vampire heavy deck if you do go this route. Kambar, Markov Enforcer, Olivia's Attendants, Strafen, Voldaren Bloodcaster, and Voldaren Estate. If you want to go heavier on the clues, you can include cards like Eloise, which should be in this deck either way, Erdwall Illuminator, Ethereal Investigator, Tamio's Journal, Academy Manufacturer, and Trail of Evidence. If you do go the token route, whether it be blood, clue, treasure, whatever, there's a lot of cards that just synergize very well when you're running all these tokens, and those cards include Junkwinder, Inspiring Statuary, Rise and Shine, Shimmer Dragon, Reckless Fireweaver, Nadier's Nightblade, Disciple of the Vault, Brutaclad, Galazeth Prismari, and Mechanized Production. Now we're on to a tribal build that I thought about for this deck. Sure, there's vampires with blood tokens, but you could also go goblins, because there's a lot of goblin cards that involve sacrificing goblins for an ability. Some of those cards include Arms Dealer, Earth Blighter, Goblin Shidjurin, Goblin Crater Maker, Goblin Raise Runners, Ib Halfheart, Goblin Warrens, that can just pump out goblin tokens like crazy, Sling Gang Commander and Siege Gang Commander, Goblin Trashmaster, Pashalik Mons, one of the best cards for this deck, Skirk Prospector, Tar Pitcher, and Weirding Shaman. That could make for a very interesting deck, and it could be a lot of fun. It's a very different take on goblins than you'd get from like a Krenko style build. I think it's a cool deck. But now we're on to the one-off cards. Some solid sacrifice outlets that would work really well in whichever build you do, being artifact-based or creature-based, include Sivris, Dockside Chef, and Baron. All of those give you much more utility on what you're sacrificing, which seem like no-brainers for this deck. Also, no matter which build you go with, you're going to be running lands. There's a few cards that work really well at sacrificing lands as a part of an activated ability, which would then be copied by Ashnod. Some of those cards include Army Ants, Lockmere Serpent, Dreamscape Artist, and Hammer of Perforos. Togo could be a pretty cool card in this deck because you get to copy the ability of throwing rocks around. Fane and Trading Post are high utility cards that could work really well in this deck. Professional Facebreaker seems like a no-brainer for the deck. You can sacrifice your treasures to be able to essentially draw cards, and you can get treasures by attacking your opponents with it. It seems like a great card for this deck. There's no reason not to run it, especially if you're going into token strategy. It's a no-brainer. And lastly, Jury. Jury seems really good for this deck, because especially if you're going in the creature sacrifice outlets, that way you can build up Jury really big and have an easy way to sacrifice Jury to throw damage wherever you want to. And that is everything I have for Ashnod the Uncaring. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, everybody.